If you're a high-performing man who is working hard for your family to provide, to put food on the table, but you find that you don't have enough time, you are constantly busy, you're putting out fires at work, you're dealing with that pressure and stress of being a high performer, and that time that you have, this precious time on earth, is going away, and you're too busy to spend time with your family or to even enjoy life, then this is going to be very powerful for you. In today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about how empowered men are able to take back between 15 to 30 hours per week. You heard that right. If you want to take back 15 to 30 hours per week, there is a simple formula, and it begins with learning how to stop being so busy and how to actually take back your time, because you can never get it back once you've used it. So if you want to take back your time and have freedom in a few key areas, financial freedom, mental freedom, emotional freedom, time freedom, then you don't want to miss today's episode. We're going to dive deep and give you all the tactics and strategies we use with our empowered man clients who invest thousands to work with us. And this information, my friend, you can have for free. So strap in. It's time to stop being so busy and take back your time. What is up, legends? Today, we're going to be talking about time management, being busy all the time, not having any time, and therefore sacrificing your health, your happiness, your family, thinking, what's the fucking point? What a way to start a podcast. Do you want to show us the photo that we're going to be referencing for today's?
This the cutest.
That's so cute. If you're listening to us, that's Sam's son, Luca. How old is Luca now?
Luca's 4.5. He's just the cutest.
Amazing. And you take Wednesday afternoons and Friday afternoons off and Saturdays and Sundays off, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I should know you work on my team. So like, it's amazing because we have a 7-figure business helping men. We're fully booked and we are trying to like change the world, and we're constantly busy and working, but you're able to take that time off, which is amazing. So a lot of guys struggle with that. You know, one of the biggest things we get from people who don't want to join our program, aren't ready to join our program, is like, I don't think I have the time. And it's like, mate, you just fucking told me that like you work 80-hour weeks. Do you have the time not to do something like this?
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, let's talk about time today. I mean, I think it's a powerful conversation. We've got 4 or 5 tools that we'll share in this podcast on how we help men manage time. But before we do that, let's break down the moments in your life where you've just been super busy, under the pump and grinding. And we'll sort of share each of our experiences with that. Like, when's the worst been for you? What's the most relatable story around grinding and time that you can share?
Oh, I think, you know, it's the classic, you know, you get up and you're working and you tell yourself a story that you don't have time for a routine. You don't, you know, for yourself, for your own self-care and stuff, because you've just got to work. You've just got to grind. You've just got to keep pushing through. And it's the classic. You can do that until you can't. Until you burn out, and then, you know, as a result of that, you're no good to anybody, especially yourself. You know, I that was my 2020, was burnt out, no good to anybody. 3-month period. Because I'd been grinding, I'd just been pushing so hard to provide and to be and wear all the hats that I felt that I needed to wear for everyone else, that, you know, it ruined me. Yeah. It absolutely
And it's like, and it's happening right in front of your eyes, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's happening when you look in the mirror and you can see like the bags under your eyes, and like you feel sullen and gray and like sunken. And you remember what you were like when you were like 22, or like if you were healthy back then. I know you were a little bit overweight, but I know, like, when I was that age, I was just unfucking stoppable. And then sometimes I'll look in the mirror and go, holy shit, like, who am I?
Yeah.
And that's like, and that's me at 30.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can start to feel that gradual progression. Like, you look in the mirror and you're like, okay, today's going to require a few more deep breaths. And then the next day it's like, okay. And then, you know, gradually you just go, oh, I don't know if I can keep doing this, but I have to. We create a story. I have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Yeah. And you notice the bags, the gray, you know, the gray's coming out, and it's just, it's all consuming.
Yeah, it is. My whole head's gone gray, if you can see. That was intentional. I mean, what's scary about it is that it is all consuming, and like, we're still here listening to this, and you might be listening to this and grinding as well. But there are so many men, like I guarantee you know at least one who have had a heart attack or a stroke. Guarantee you know someone who's had cancer. And it's like chronic states of stress, they kill, man. They kill almost more than anything else. I don't know the exact statistic, but I think heart disease is the number one killer of men, 25 to 40. It's either that or suicide. I should probably know that, but I don't want to say facts that aren't true. I know for me, man, the biggest challenge was that idea of I'll just stop when, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're grinding to make money and provide. Why else would you grind? We can say it's impact, and it is, like Empowered Man's about impact, but realistically, like you need money to make an impact. What do billionaires do? They start charities. So there's this like constant story in my head of like, I'll stop when I hit the next milestone. I'll stop when I hit the next milestone. And then you hit that milestone and you realize that you're not even that fulfilled. Like you didn't enjoy the journey. You were just chasing the target, and you hit the target. It's like on to the next thing. And it's just never ending fucking cycle, which is beautiful because that's the game of business and life. But man, if you're not aware of that, like if you don't make the time for yourself, you'll be forced to make the time. You know, I think in the last 5 years, I've had like 3 mental breakdowns, and you've been here for all of them. You know, there were times where like I had to take a month off work last year in December. I don't know if you remember, like I took like the 10th to the 2nd off. I just like, fuck this. I'm not showing up. And that was the last time I was burnt out. But the whole of last year, I had that, that belief that I'll stop when, and it was never enough. And then I realized last year that I haven't consistently taken time off in years. So this year was the first year actually for me that I have a quarterly break. And I think it's something we're going to implement with you, you know, every 6 months or every 3 months, is like having a week off every quarter. That's 1 out of 13.
Yeah.
4 out of 52. But let's be honest, like, do you hear that, or does anyone hear that and get anxiety and go, but what about the business?
Yeah, of course. Like but what about, but if I'm the glue, like I've got to hold everything together. And if I take time off, then what's going to happen? You know, it's that control, you know, that we like, oh, I've got to just have a grasp over everything. And if I don't, then what happens? Like last week I took the week off, and there were many moments where I'm like, oh, should I just check? Should I just check my email? Should I just check our platform that we use? Should I just? And then it was like, well, I could, but then that, should I just check, that turns into 10 minutes of work. I'll just reply to that, and I'll just reply to this. And then all of a sudden you're back in the game, and the week off is pointless. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so true. And the week off, it's really not that long. Like it takes 2 to 3 days to switch off minimum, I would say. I don't know how long it took you, or how long did it take to actually switch off? I think it probably took me 2.5 days.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So you got 2.5 days to switch off. Then you're traveling back from your holiday destination. That's an entire day. So 3.5 days are gone. You got 3.5 left in the week. And then you're also back on the weekend with family. So you had a break, but it's not really a break. And that's a week. And so many men struggle with the week. Yeah. Before I had a daughter, and anyone who has a child will understand this. I just booked a random holiday to Croatia once. I surprised Rosie. It was a month. Just took a month off work. Then I booked, when I proposed, I booked 2 weeks in Hawaii. Just took 2 weeks off. To do that now, no way, you know? And I think a lot of men, they work hard because they want freedom and choice. Like that's why I do it. I want freedom and choice. I want to work hard so I don't have to work. But a lot of the time you become a prisoner to it. Like you're wearing golden handcuffs and you're a prisoner to your business or your career. And it's like, it's not that you can't even take time off. It's that you can't even switch off. It's like, yeah, I can take the weekend off, but if my mind's on that thing I'm going to check, and that checking it takes 5 minutes, but then the mental real estate it takes up, the bandwidth it takes up, takes like a whole day. You read one shitty email from a shitty client, you think about it all day. This happens to me so many times where I check my phone and I'm like, fuck, why did I check my phone? You know? So I guess we get to have a conversation about time today, and I really want to give the men listening some practical steps. So the way we'll run this today is we'll talk about what time really is. Like time is a construct. We'll talk about how much time you actually have left, because we did that at the retreat and it was huge. And then let's give the guys some practical strategies. We'll talk about the time map. We'll talk about the 80-20 rule, and we'll talk about hot lists and hit lists. And then we'll talk about the making time for the 4 routines we do. So we'll go through that formula. It'll take us about 20, 25 minutes to strap yourselves in. And if you are a man listening to this and you've related to anything we've said, and you do struggle with time management, productivity, procrastination, and you feel like you've never got enough time, you're constantly busy, I commend you for making it this far into the fucking podcast, because you could just be making excuses. If you can relate to any of that, we both understand. However, if we don't nip that in the bud right now, the consequences are fucking serious. Divorce, heart attack, stroke, cancer. My job as a coach is to get you to the truth, not to sugarcoat your balls and lick them. It's to tell you that like this shit needs to fucking change. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's start at the beginning, man. Like, what does time mean to you, and what does busy mean to you?
Time for me is my most precious resource. Like if I was thinking about it this morning, I was driving home from the gym and I'm like, if I waste my time, I waste my life. Like, and it's a scary thing. I sat with someone yesterday for 45 minutes and we had we had a meal, we had the most amazing conversation. And coming home from that, I was like, in that same 45 minutes, I could have just been endlessly scrolling and it would have taken longer than 45 minutes. And it's just mind numbing and purposeless. Whereas in that moment, that time was used to maximum potential and it was phenomenal. And so busy is something that a lot of people have used to define me over many, many years. Oh, you're a busy guy. And it actually triggers me. But I allowed that. I allowed myself to become busy to the point where I had no space to take on anything else, no space or margin in my day to stop and check in on that person or have that conversation. Or, when I was working in the corporate world and I was busy, it was always walk down the hallway, head down straight to the next thing. So you don't look someone in the eye and get stopped. And it's just busy. It's grinding. And I think I shared a couple of weeks ago, I don't like that word, like grinding. Like it's just...
It sounds terrible. Have you ever heard someone grind their teeth?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's such a horrible sound. Sometimes Rosie does it. I do it a lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to push her. You know what I mean? It's a horrible sound. We could hear our sister from like 2 bedrooms over when we lived with her grinding. Like it's insane,
Yeah.
Hey legend, if you're getting value from this podcast, then you're going to love our Empowered Man 7-Day Challenge. Inside, we've taken some of the best content our clients invest thousands of dollars for to change their lives, and we've given it to you in the course of 7 days. This challenge is worth over $3,000, and you can get it for $37, 97% off. Inside, we'll teach you how to fix your marriage and relationships and reconnect with your partner, your kids, your wife. We will teach you how to take back your time, how to take back your power, get into powerful routines, and how to take control of your life, take control of your mind, take control of your business, take control of your health, take control of your wealth. Sounds too good to be true, but there's a complete money back guarantee. So if you're enjoying this podcast, go to elitebusinessman.com/challenge. That's elitebusinessman.com/challenge. It's going to be in the call notes as well, and you'll be able to register for this challenge that will completely change your life. So let's start there. It's like this idea of busy. What is your definition of busy? If you're listening to this podcast, like what does it actually mean to you? Because there's a distinct difference between busy and productive. Like busy is 100%. When you just do a whole bunch of shit. But have you ever had a busy day where you get to the end of the day and you go, what the fuck did I do today? And you feel like you accomplished nothing. But you were back to back and you worked 12 hours. That was me for years, right? Busy is doing a whole bunch of shit. But most of the shit we do each day is a waste of time. Productive is focusing on the needle movers. Like how did Jeff Bezos, Tony Robbins, all these wealthy guys who have multiple businesses have the same 24 hours in a day, yet they can have thousands of employees and manage themselves properly? The difference isn't busy, it's productive. So I think the first step is identifying what does busy actually mean to each of us. I hate the word. I'm never busy, I'm productive, or I'm unproductive.
Yeah.
If I'm busy, I'm unproductive. I think the second thing, man, is identifying what the beliefs are around time. So when we say we don't have time, what are we doing to our power? Like we're handing it away, right? It's like, I don't have time. It's like, motherfucker, you're right, you don't have time. Because let's frame it like this. Okay, let's say you're 30 years old. And the average lifespan in Australia is 82. You can Google that one. So there's 52 years left. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, to simplify this, let's say you're 42. So let's just say you're 82, 40. Let's say you're 42. You got 40 years left. Right? Super simple. You understand the equation? Right? 42 years left. Now, let's say you work a third of your life, 8 hours a day. Do you work more than 8 hours a day?
Now, no. Generally not.
Damn it. I need you to work more.
I say generally not. Mondays are a long day, but
let's just say on average, a third of your day is gone. How many hours do you sleep a night?
Anywhere between 6 and 8.
Cool. Let's just say 8. Right?
Yep.
So now 2/3 of that 42 years is gone. Do you have a calculator? What's that? Like 14 years?
What was it? What was the
42 divided by 3?
3. It's 14, yeah.
There's 14 years of life left. That's if you're 42. If you're 32, you got a little bit more. You got another 3. You got 17 years of life left. If you're 52, you got 10 years of life left. If you're 62, we can keep going. So let's just say you're like an average male, 40, listening to this. You've got 12 to 14 years of life left. That's not work and not sleep. Now, let's be honest though. During that 10 to 14 years of life, how much of it do you spend stressed? How much of time do you spend outside of work thinking about work? How much of that time do you spend in arguments with your partner? How much of that time do you spend overthinking? How much of that time do you spend on your phone? How much of that time do you spend looking at screens? Okay, so if you did nothing but be in the moment, you've got 10 to 14 years left. But let's go even deeper. How much time do you spend focusing on what happened in the past and focusing on the shit that's going to happen in the future? 60%, 40%. So when you do this calculation, you realize that like in the moment, because that's the only time you enjoy life. That's why you work so hard, is so you can enjoy life. In the moment, the amount of time you have left in the moment, if you continue to operate the way you're operating, is like 3 to 6 years. And when we shared this we shared this with 22 men at our retreat. You know, they paid $5,000 each to come to that retreat, and that lesson alone was enough for them for the ticket. They were like, "Holy shit!" So you're right. You don't have time. You don't have time. Because like, what? God forbid you're listening to this and you've got family. What if tomorrow you died? How would you feel about the way you're spending your life right now? Now, does that inspire and motivate you? Yes. But it's not as easy as that, right? It's like, yeah, I get it. I also know that I shouldn't eat shit food and drink alcohol. Right? So what's the first strategy in your mind when you realize that you don't have enough time to actually go, okay, cool, I'm going to make time for myself? How does one do that when their belief is, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time?
That's a great question. The first step, is, I think for me, the first step is getting to the truth. If I don't change something, what could happen? What could life look like? What could the rest of my years look like? And, even that, calculation, that's a scary thought. That's a really scary thought. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot I could say as to what I do, but, scheduling is everything. And, even since working with you, the way that I schedule is completely different now. I schedule everything.
Yeah. So the first step is definitely scheduling, but a lot of guys schedule things and they have a massive to-do list. Have you ever had a to-do list where you just like, it never ends? Right. So I think the first step for anyone listening to this who's struggling with time, the first step is identifying that you're right. You don't have enough time. What's the consequence of operating the way you've been operating? Okay. Cause we can tell ourselves the story that I'll stop when, but what's the consequence of continuing this way for a week, another month, another year, another 5, another 10? What's the consequence to your children? What's the consequence to your wife or partner? And what's the consequence to your health? Because time is your most valuable asset next to your health. Right? If you get terminal cancer or have a heart attack, it doesn't matter how much time you have left because you're about to die. Does that make sense? So really identifying that. The second step then is sitting down and dedicating and investing and making the time to do this exercise. and it's called a time map. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to this on any platform, just drop a key down below and we'll get this to you. We'll get you what our clients pay for. You can have it. Take 30 minutes, set a timer, schedule it in. Listen to the time conversation, schedule the time, set a timer, time, invest the time, make the time, and write down everything you do in a day and everything you do in a week. So picking the kids up from school, listening to this podcast, scrolling on my phone, like everything you do, taking a shit, sex every once a month, whatever it may be, like write down everything you do, work meetings, quoting, whatever you do in your work day, go personal life, working out. Do you do that? Like write down all the things that you do. And then once you've done that, identify, like driving to work. That's another thing. Identify how much time you spend on those things each day and each week. So now you have clarity. Now it's not just some like bullshit thing. I don't have enough time. Now it's like, okay, where am I putting my time? Because those are two different conversations. Like I don't have enough time. Where am I putting my time? Are two different conversations. This one here is the victim mentality. It's like, I don't have enough time. Take my power away. I can't control it. It's out of my control. Don't have enough time. Over here, it's like, cool. I've got time. I'm just choosing to put it in these areas. No one's choosing for me, right? We have a guy who just joined our program, Peter, who has 12 employees, super busy. And, he was doing an onboarding call and he was like working while he was on the call with you. It's like, he's choosing to do two things at once. Choose to make the time for this, right? Once you've done that, you've done this exercise with me before. I'll let you continue. Like what happens once you've got that list? Like, let's say we give 30 minutes to this. What do they do now once they've got that list? How do they take that list and actually make it work for them instead of against them?
In terms of everything they're doing?
Yeah, like they've got the list. They know exactly what they're doing every day, every week. They know how much time it's taking. They've got the numbers in front of them. Now what do they do?
I think it's a matter of prioritizing. I mean, when you get to, if you do the exercise properly and you get to the brutal truth of everything you are doing, there are so many things that, number one, especially if we're in business, could be delegated off. But starting to go, well, what's non-negotiable? What gets to be, the big rocks in my calendar? They happen. They need to happen every single day or on a work day or whatever. And then around that, you start to shape and craft what your schedule looks like around that. And you start to put in those smaller things that, they need to be in there for the business to run or, paying the staff and all that sort of stuff. But for me, when I do my schedule, it's work, put in work, my work hours. I put in my self-care hours. So that encompasses my gym, my meal prep, all the things that I do for my health and my family time. Yep. My family time is crucial. And to the point where if someone wants to catch up with me or something on a Wednesday afternoon, a Friday afternoon, or a Saturday, Sunday, I'm like, sorry, I'm unavailable.
Yep. Because you made that time non-negotiable for yourself. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
For so many years, I'll just be flexible with that. And then who loses out? Well, my little boy loses out. And I'm not willing to sacrifice time with him to do something else.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Just where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, it's like you've raised the standard, and that's the thing. So once you've got that list, the best thing to do, yes, you can delegate stuff. So one system we use here is RSD, remove, systemize, delegate. So like the first step is you got the list. Well, the first step is identifying that there is a cost to not changing the way we operate. If you're too busy, you can change that. You can have freedom. Step 2, write a list. Step 3, look at that list. And if I put a gun to your head, like I literally put a gun to your son's head and I was like, you need to cut 20% of the stuff off this list or I'm going to shoot him in the head. What would you cut off the list? Guarantee you'd find 20% of the stuff to cut. Guarantee. And how would you do that? You'd look at the things that have the lowest return on investment. Checking your emails has no return on investment. You can get a VA to do that for you, pay them $600 a month from the Philippines. They can feed their family and you're providing life for them. You can do that with a lot of shit. So you look at that list and you go, what can I remove? And this is where the 80-20 rule comes in, right? 20% of the results come from 80% of the shit you do each day. 20% of the world's money is owned by 80% of the people. So the bulk of people own fuck all money, but then 80% of the people in the world own 20% of the money. It's this dichotomy. Like there's an 80-20 rule to everything. So there's 20% of the stuff you do each day, which is the most important. The rest isn't important. You can get rid of it. And you might be thinking, well, Tony, how do I get rid of it? It's important. Well, no, it's not. This is where the second step comes in. You don't just remove everything. You remove some things. If you go on your phone right now, and iPhone, Android will be different, there'll be a option in the settings to check your screen time. Check how much screen time is on your phone. That's something you can remove. Delete YouTube off your phone. Delete apps off your phone. Otherwise, you won't be able to listen to me. Right? And then systemize. What can you systemize? So, for example, you can systemize your meal prep. Let's say you're eating shitty food. Every Sunday for 2 hours, you sit down, you go to the grocery store with your family, you prep some food. Or you can delegate eating. You can literally pay someone to create meals for you, and now you've taken back 2 hours a week. So it's looking at all these things you do each week and asking, what can I remove? What can I systemize? What can I delegate? The third step is having non-negotiable standards around that, right? It's like, cool, I understand time. 2, I've created a list. 3, I've created a remove, systemize, delegate system. We teach this in our programs. The next step is having a solid routine where you do the non-negotiables that aren't work, right? It's like morning, evening. We have to have these touch points to see where our time's going. So walk the guys through, how does the morning start? How does the evening finish?
So our routines.
Yeah, what should they do?
Yeah. Well, look, I think being really clear about, waking up, for example, I spent nearly 30 years of my life just, waking up whenever, getting up whenever, last minute, rushing out the door, no time to invest in myself, no time to set myself up for the day, and you're just operating out of the scraps that are left. So getting up at the same time each day and, moving my body. I sit with my journal. I do some journaling, my thoughts, my feelings, intentions for the day. I set some targets for the day, my hit list, which I think we'll talk about. And then a cold shower, shock my body, get into that powerful state, and then I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and that's non-negotiable. Yeah.
It's non-negotiable.
So we have a client called Michael. His companies do $60 million a year, and we've referenced him a few times. So quite a successful guy. He said the 2 most important parts of his success, 1 is in the mornings, he has 2 hours for himself before he starts his workday. None of this, I don't have time, I have to work right away. He gets up before his family wakes up. I think he gets up at 4:30 in the morning, and he spends 2 hours on himself. He does routines, works out, does meditation, all the things we teach in our programs, and he gets into a powerful state. And the second thing was reflection. Every evening, he looks back at the day to see what he could do better and change, and then he plans the next day. So how does that look like? What do the guys need to do in the evening? So in the morning, you got a routine. You get up earlier, you've already taken... If you get up an hour earlier, you've taken back 365 hours a year, by the way. If you add that to your calculation, you could add 10 to 20% extra life into your life if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the morning, you have a solid routine, you schedule that in, you do it before you get into the workday. So you're not too busy for it. You make time for it. That shifts your state. Then what happens throughout the day?
Throughout the day, I work out every day. Monday to Friday, I work out. Saturdays, sometimes I work out as well. And then after my lunch break, you'll see it scheduled in my diary every day. I zoom out. I take 15, 20 minutes and I meditate, I breathe, I mix it up, and I focus on being present. And it's kind of like hitting the reset button. And I'm like, as I go through the other half of my day, all right, let's go. It's the morning routine in the afternoon for me.
Yeah. And that's what we teach all of our clients is touch points, right? So in the morning, before your day starts and before you get busy, you have a touch point to center yourself. Because I just stopped drinking coffee 3 days ago, and it's so fucking hard because I love coffee. But it's so much less oxymoron. I'm so much less frantic. I'm just more centered and calm. So that can be created while having coffee in the morning. Then throughout the day, guess what happens? Frantic, busy, fires come in, your plans go out the window, people come and bring shit to you. and then you make time to eat. Do you know how many men don't make time to eat?
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
fucking make time to eat. And it's like, imagine driving a supercar without putting any fuel in it and like revving it all day. It's going to fucking explode. Doesn't matter how expensive it is.
Yeah.
So you got to fuel the body. Again, we don't make time for these things. And then, yeah, what we teach all our clients is slow down and zoom out. There's many different ways you can do that. You can close your eyes and just breathe. You can do deep breath work. Very powerful. You can do yoga nidra, where you turn off the entire body in 10 minutes. Just Google yoga nidra. Some amazing scripts out there. And exercise every day to zoom out. So that zoom out, it's a reset button. A lot of men feel like that if they hit the reset button, they're not going to be able to start again. But what's the alternative? That the alternative is you just work, you grind, because you can't slow down. That's the story, right? But then what does your body do? It forces you to slow down through burnout, breakdown, things break. And then into the evening, how do we take back our time in the evening? Because obviously that's when you want to switch off, watch Netflix, scroll on your phone. What happens then?
What's also really interesting is, having worked in the corporate world for a number of years, you get to that 3:00 and there's that slump that, and basically between 3 and 5, it's completely unproductive. And then, you go home and then you'll get work out then, and then you'll start to work in the evening to kind of make up for that lost time. Whereas what I find when I zoom out in the afternoon, it powers me up to a point. I don't have a 3:00 slump. I get to the end of my workday and I'm like, oh, it's time to switch off. Okay, cool. Because I've invested that 15 minutes some days.
Yep.
But it's gold.
I think that's the thing, is that word investment. It's like, so many men, they don't see that if they invest 15 minutes in the middle of the day to slow down, it's going to give them an extra 3 hours of energy, but not just energy, productivity. So it's not going to create more time. It's going to take 15 minutes away from your time, but you're going to be operating maybe 2 to 3 times more productively, and you'll get more done. And I think that's the challenge, is men struggle to see the ROI. They struggle to see the return on investment. If I buy a house and it goes up 100 grand, I can see the ROI. I think for men, until they do it and experience it, they don't realize. That's why so many men come to us and they're like, oh my God, like the routines, I'm doing them, takes me an hour a day, but now I've taken 3 hours back a day. That's like 21 hours a week. But they're so resistant to it at the beginning. We have men who pay us $6,000, $15,000, $25,000 who just don't do the work. And it's because they're so stuck in their ways. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that zoom out really helps. And then in the evening, reflecting on what worked that day and doing the RSD. What can I remove from today that I won't do tomorrow? What can I systemize? What can I delegate? And when your brain starts to work this way, you're constantly just going, waste of time, needle mover, important, not important, having a system for that. So I got another meeting in like a minute, but I'm going to be running late. Let's talk about the hot list and the hit list. So how's the hot list and the hit list are a very powerful tool we use for our clients to help them slow down, zoom out, and know exactly what the needle movers are. So the hot list, how's that? Like, explain how it's different to a to-do list, because a to-do list is just never ending. And there's no categories. There's no category of importance. Like, how can you know anything? So how's it different? And let me just message my next meeting.
No worries. I mean, the hot list is, it's not just we can get very caught up in the brain dump, like the to-do list brain dump. And it's just, putting things, on your notes app, and it's just never ending. And then you go back and you're like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even remember what that was, but it was important enough to put there. Whereas, with your hot list, there's structure around that. Like, what is it? When you're going to, like, what needs to happen for you to do that? When you're going to do it by? You're setting some targets, some deadlines, some intentionality around it. And you're setting yourself up for a win. And then the system we use, we categorize those things. We categorize them around work, around personal life, and whatever it is. And it gives us that structure, as opposed to just a to-do list, which is, for me, unhelpful and unproductive.
I think the best way to describe it is chaos versus order.
Yeah,
so like,
totally.
When you're constantly busy and you've got to-do lists, let's say you have 7 things to do today, and then somebody comes to your desk and brings another. Now you've got 8. And what they brought you gets you out of focus and out of flow. So now you've forgotten 2. And you don't know which one's important because there's no structure to it. So what a hot list does is it basically puts it into a few different buckets. The first bucket it puts it into is the category, right? So specifically when it comes to business, there's marketing, sales, fulfillment, and operations. Those are the buckets of business. If you're a business owner, you might know about those, you might not. And there's sub buckets of each of those things. And then in personal life, there's health, body, mind, family, etc. So every time you put something on your hot list, not your to-do list, it's all in one place. It's not a list randomly somewhere. It's in a hub. As a matter of fact, I think I can share my screen here. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So this is what it looks like
cool.
on my computer. Can you see my screen?
It's loading.
It's loading. Fantastic. Cool. So like we have the task, which is like a to-do list, but then we have the category. What category is it in? And we use something called Notion for all of our stuff. So if you want a tutorial on this, just drop a keen down below, or I want one down below, because we asked you to drop keen. So what's the category? Now we know what the category is. What's the urgency? Is the world ending? Is it urgent? Is it medium? Is it low priority? How many things are on our to-do list that are low priority? Right? Like set up a Facebook group challenge, not important for me. It's not going to make us any money, not going to help anyone, right? Then what's the progress? Is it in progress? Is it done? Is it started? And what list is it in? So the hot list is, if you want to do this at home and succeed with this, one of the easiest ways to do it is once you've figured out where your time goes, write down a list of all the things you need to do in your life or you want to do in your life. Write a book, run this meeting, etc. And then categorize each of those things by what category they are and the urgency. Now the hit list is a little bit different. The hit list is when you can take that hot list of all these tasks that you want to complete and you can add them to a list where you can actually see exactly what you're going to do that day. So as soon as it leaves your hot list you don't think about. Your hot list is something you check once a day and every weekend when you reflect, which we teach in our programs. If you're not reflecting and planning tomorrow today, you're doomed to fail, right? So you know exactly what all your tasks are. And then every evening you decide, what am I doing tomorrow? Now you can see my dates are all a bit fucked up, but it goes from the hot list to the hit list. The urgency is pretty urgent because it's happening now. And now we have these two channels that we're constantly working towards. We have what's important, what's not important, and then we look at it, we can see what's important because it's labeled, and we can move it to tomorrow and get it done. And guess what? If it's not done, we put it back on the hot list. And if you do this every day, now you've got order instead of chaos because you know exactly what you want to do. You know what category it is. You know the urgency. So now you don't do that annoying shit. You do the low-hanging fruit that's important, and then you get shit done each day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Such a powerful tool. So I think for anyone who's watching this, if you say you're busy and don't have enough time, just ask yourself, what happens if I don't make time? Ask yourself, what's your definition of busy? And are you busy or productive? Invest 30 minutes to do a time map of all the things you do each day and each week and put a number of hours next to each one. And then once you've got that list, ask yourself, what can I remove? What can I systemize? What can I delegate? We'll create coaching and content on those things. Once you've done that, create your own hot list and categorize the areas of your life. If you want to simplify it, health, wealth, relationships. That's personal. If you want to go into business or wealth, sales, marketing, fulfillment, and operations. Pretty simple. And then sort it by urgency. And then each evening before you switch off, plan tomorrow today and look at your hot list and plan the day and schedule things into your calendar. And if you can do that, you'll take back 10, 20 hours a week like that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, I'd love to know, like, do you do this? Like, did you do this before you came to us? Guarantee you didn't. I didn't.
No.
You know? And it's like, how could you not have time when you do these sorts of things? We've all got the same amount of time in terms of 24 hours a day, but we don't have the same amount of time in terms of living. And like, you never know when you're going to go. So if today was your last day or tomorrow was your last day, would you be happy with the way you're living? And if the answer is no, it's time to change. Pun intended. Do you know what I mean? So we'll cut it at that because I've got a meeting that I'm running late for. I hope you guys got some value from that podcast episode. If you are a man struggling with work-life balance, time management, stress, overwhelm, then understand that's called being a human and a high performer. But a peak performer is different to a high performer. I came up with the term yesterday, a high-performing stress head. A high-performance stress head is different to a peak performer. So if you'd like to operate at your peak, if you got value from this, just drop a comment down below. If you're listening to me or watching me somewhere, there could be a button or a link somewhere. Feel free to book a coaching session with one of our team members, and we'll show you the roadmap we give to men to take back their time, reignite their relationships, make more money, and be successful in all the areas of their life, their health, wealth, and relationships. So if you'd like more info on that, just find a button or link down below or drop a comment, depending on where you're listening or watching, and anything you want to add around time before we finish up, because it's time to go.
No, I don't think so. I think one quick thing is that a lesson that I've been able to learn is that no one is in charge of my time and my diary. No one's looking out, oh, I wonder if Sam should take that meeting at 12 o'clock on a Friday. Oh, I wonder if he's got too much. No one's looking after my diary. And so it's my responsibility too.
Yeah.
They're just throwing things at me all the time, but we choose to take that on board.
100%.
If we want things to change, we get to take responsibility for it.
Yeah. Especially if you're busy or run a business, it's like, you don't have time. No, you're just choosing to have that meeting instead of that workout.
Yeah.
You're choosing to work late instead of take your kids out to sports practice. You're choosing to be on your phone instead of, and it's hard to admit this, like I don't mean that with any disrespect, because I did it for years. Like radical responsibility. It's one of the pieces of our code of being a modern day man. So maybe we'll talk about that next week. Awesome, guys. Hope you got some value from this. If you did, give it a thumbs up, whatever you need to do on whatever platform you're on, and have an amazing day. We'll see you for the next episode of the Empowered Man podcast.
Sweet.
Hey, brother, I hope you got a ton of value from that podcast. If you would like to work with us personally and get some of the best content we've launched for our clients who invested thousands of dollars, then go and complete our 7-day Empowered Man Challenge. This mission will completely transform your life. If it doesn't, you won't have to pay a cent. It's only $37, and it is game-changing if you want to take back control. So if you want to find balance between business, family, and life, if you want the relationship, the health, the wealth that you deserve, then go to elitebusinessman.com/challenge. That's elitebusinessman.com/challenge, and take up this challenge to take back control of your life.